15 minutes for a bus and then 3 come all along at once. Look, they're all cramming in.
This shows stand up to racism, as they're called, with Antifa, a violent, thuggish group, arriving at the train station and literally, by Essex Police, being bussed to the Bell Hotel.
Breaking today, the Essex Police under fire over a clear cover-up involving the transportation of hard-left Antifa agitators, many of whom were in masks, to and from the Epping Bell Hotel last Thursday. Now, this story is shocking on so many levels. It also proves why you cannot trust the mainstream media and you cannot trust politicians to get to the truth, because I was talking about this on Friday here on Outspoken. Indeed, it was very clear during my digest exactly what had happened. Watch this. Big news. Outspoken is now available as a podcast too. So please do subscribe wherever you get yours, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and make sure you rate and review. I'll take 5 stars, if you may. By patriotic locals, including, by the way, lots of women and children. But every time hard left Antifa agitators from the group Stand Up to Racism have then been shipped in, because these are the locals, right? You can see there, they're not hard right. But look at this lot that have been shipped in to try and provoke trouble. Now, this is a tactic we've seen used a lot by Antifa stateside and also during last year's Southport unrest. Now, what caused the specific trouble last night is when Epping Police, and you can see it here, they actually escorted Antifa from the train station to the Bell Hotel to confront the locals who were protesting in police vans. And how they seem to be trying to get around this is by saying, oh, no. We only escorted them in the vans away from the protest. But there is very obvious footage that shows them escorting these hard-left Antifa agitators, many in masks, to the Bell Hotel on the streets. And as the Daily Telegraph, and I mean, good on them for getting there, I guess, but you are many, many days late, reported on their front page today, police take pro-migrant protesters to Asylum Hotel. Police have admitted escorting pro-migrant protesters to an asylum hotel at the centre of days of volatile demonstrations, the newspaper reported. Essex Police initially denied that it had brought activists from the group Stand Up to Racism to the Bell Hotel, amid claims by anti-migrant protesters that the arrival of counter-demonstrators sparked the violence of July the 7th. But the footage was there. I mean, from our friend of the show, Eddie Alexander, on the day, they were actually describing these police vans as buses. Now, Nigel Farage, who is the leader of Reform UK and has at least eventually got here, said, I didn't want to believe this had happened, and then I saw the video. Well, this is the thing, Nigel, okay? Good on you for getting to this point. But start trusting people who are on the ground, okay? Because this happened on Thursday night. It was clear to us all on Thursday night. I reported it on Friday. It is absolutely appalling that here we are only on Wednesday forcing these questions of the Essex Police because the mainstream media has finally got onto the topic. Farage, though, did leap into action today, calling for the head of the Essex Police to go.
Video.
If these are locals, why are they getting in a police car? Where time's the next bus? You wait 15 minutes for a bus and then 3 come all along at once. Look, they're all cramming in.
This shows stand up to racism, as they're called, with Antifa, a violent, thuggish group, arriving at the train station and literally, by Essex Police, being bussed to the Bell Hotel. These were the people that caused the disturbances. These were the people that caused the riots. Essex Police caused the disturbances. What on earth were Essex Police thinking? Is it that they just hate so much ordinary residents determined to stand up for their own rights? I don't know the answer to that question. What I do know is what Essex Police have done here is absolutely disgraceful. one of the most extraordinary acts I've seen from the police force in my lifetime. And for busing Antifa, oh, and by the way, many of them masked protesters, for doing this, heads must roll. There is no way the Chief Constable or the Police and Crime Commissioner in Essex can stay in their posts. This is a disgrace.
And he is right. And anyone sane can see it. Chris Rose posts on this. If they were protesting against illegal migrants in hotels, some faces covered and waving the St. George's flag, I can't see Essex Police escorting them to a pro-migrant protest. This is two-tier policing. It's undeniable now. Sackings need to happen. From Lee Harris, it makes you wonder if Essex Police escorted in masked-up far-left agitators to stir up trouble at the Bell Hotel in Epping, so it gives Keir Starmer an excuse to label anyone with concerns about illegal migrants as far-right. And from the Reform UK councillor who was on the ground, Jamie McIver, I was there. See it happen for myself. A peaceful protest hijacked by an imported left-wing mob, the local politicians watching from the live stream rather than standing with the women and children of Epping, the media calling us all far-right. What a joke. And even some of our top legal experts in the country revealing that this has gone too far. Stephen Barrett posted, right, this is both absolutely disgraceful and extremely dangerous. What on earth does Essex Police think it's doing? Time for a royal commission of our rotten police forces. Essex Police are not an escort service for the far-left rent mob without fear or favour. This force needs to be shut down and investigated as a matter of urgency. And of course, the problem is there is a complete collapse of faith in our police services, and I don't like that. But it is where we're at. We cannot deny that. As Will Kingston said, faith in the police is completely broken down, and they have brought it entirely upon themselves. Russell Quirk, local Essex resident, agreed I was right. Essex Police did take masked left-wing thugs to the protesters at the Bell Hotel Epping. We might conclude that the authorities were trying to provoke trouble in order to discredit peaceful locals protesting as far right. If so, this is a monumental scandal, and the Essex Police and Ben Julian Harrington must be held accountable. Well, finally today, Wednesday, so we're talking 6 days after this actually happened, Ben Julian Harrington faced the mainstream media. But do you think the mainstream media really cared? Of course they didn't, because they have a totally different agenda, which I'll come to in 1 second. But he did insist that he would not resign.
If you're not apologising, are you going to follow the demands of some politicians in this country who have called for you to resign over this?
No, I'm not. I'm not going to do that. And this is not about me. This is about the communities of Essex, is what I spoke about earlier. You know, the communities that are disrupted, the legitimate people who want to go and protest outside that hotel, and I make no observation about view of that. If they're peaceful and lawful, they want to express their views. That is their right, and it is important that within the laws of this country that Essex Police allow that to take place. I come back to the point where people break the law, where they smash up police vans, where they assault workers from the hotel, where they are chasing people away. Those are the people that we will not tolerate and we will deal with. And I think, and I hope you see from the 10 arrests we've made, that is exactly what we have done.
Well, no, we don't see that. We don't see that, because what we do see is you stamping down on people who you consider to be far right and then treating with kid gloves masked Antifa agitators. Here was his response to that.
Thank you.
Why did your officers escort counter-protesters, some wearing masks, towards what appeared to be a largely peaceful demonstration?
Well, officers, people have got the right to turn up and protest where they're peaceful and lawful. And that is exactly what they'll do. People made their own way to this location, and we saw that, and we've seen the footage, and I know my officers were there. They had committed no crimes at that stage, and of course officers properly were monitoring those groups to ensure that there was no confrontation and disorder. That's what they do. That's what you see at many protests and demonstrations, and that's exactly what they do. And I want to stress, where people have clearly committed offences, we have intervened and we've made arrests, and the record of the courts and the people charged is clarity of that.
But didn't that tactic risk a confrontation?
I'm not good. Every tactic and every intervention in a public order situation has pros and cons, has choices and consequences. I've got highly professional, highly trained and highly skilled commanders and officers on the ground. I'm not going to second guess their judgments. They are highly trained in doing that. They need to react to the situation that they face, and I am confident that from the arrest they've made, from the work that we've done, that they have done that in this occasion.
Chief Constable Charlie Peters.
I'm sorry, he is speaking total bullshit. Have you ever seen police anywhere in the United Kingdom, but certainly in Essex, treat Tommy Robinson supporters, treat patriots in the way that the hard left were treated? The police vans were described as buses. This is nuts. And at that point, he was urged by his press officer to issue a stern denial, which I think was intellectually dishonest. But let me show it to you and then I'll explain why. The reason you're watching this show is because you know that these days, and we've been discussing it lots at the moment, it's impossible to trust the mainstream media or the so-called fact checkers who claim to patrol social media. And that's for a very good reason, given the Brexit debate, COVID debacle, and demonisation of Donald Trump. But I've got the solution for you. Today's sponsor, Ground News, created by a former NASA engineer to provide you with the only safe way to consume the headlines, is going to solve so many of these issues. Go to ground.news/outspoken to check it out for yourself, by the way. But I want to show you this incredible website and app in action. So let's take the recent story we've discussed at lots of Outspoken of Elon Musk's fallout with Nigel Farage over Tommy Robinson, which the left-wing legacy media tried to whip up to destroy all three men, actually. And by looking at Ground News, you can see very clearly that it's collated the 230 sources on this story in one place. But what Ground News instantly shows is how the story is being covered by the media and broken down by whether those media organizations lean to the left or right, illustrated by its biased distribution service, which features on all stories. Then you can scroll down and actually see every article about the topic broken down by the political position or ownership of the publication. So in this case, it shows quite clearly that Fox News gave a fair analysis compared to Mediaite and The Independent, which did not, lambasting the men as morons with big egos without actually looking into why this split happened and how it can be resolved. What's more, Ground News gets to know you personally, providing you with the news stories you're interested in, while also analysing your own biases and coming up with potential blind spots you might not be hearing about because of your media consumption. And look, I know you love the news, that's why you're watching Outspoken, but you don't trust the legacy media. But what Ground News does is give you the tools to understand the truth about what is going on in the world. It is the only way I read the news now, allowing you to see through media bias and manipulative narratives with no more relying on the MSM to define what's really going on for you. So go to ground.news/outspoken to check it out. You can subscribe through my link today for 40% off the Vantage plan, which is what I use for unlimited access. And I should say, by the way, Ground News is a really great organization. It is subscriber funded, and by supporting my sponsors like Ground News, you also support my work too. And for less than a Netflix subscription, you can get all the world's news in one place and think for yourself. It really has been a game changer for a news junkie like me. So let me just repeat the address. It is linked in the show notes below, or you can click on the QR code if you're watching on screen. But the address, ground.news/outspoken. But now, back to the show.
That,
yeah,
happy to.
and I think that's a good prompt, Robin. So thank you. I mean, there's been some accusation in the media that we drove people to the protest. That is not true. We have not driven anybody to that protest. People made their own way there, and of course, one of the accusations and one of the things circulated is we did take people away for their safety, for the safety of everyone there, because it was the best operational thing to do to prevent violence, to diffuse the situation. We drove them away from a violent confrontation.
Okay, so he is trying to get out of this on a technicality, because what the Essex Police did was escort the hard left Antifa protesters, many as we saw in those pictures, completely masked up. They escorted them into the peaceful protest. That is what caused all of the violence. That is what caused all of the disruption on Thursday night. They may not have used vans to do that, but they certainly used police forces to do that. I have seen the pictures. I've seen the video. The police are literally there escorting them into the middle of what was at the time, as Adam Brooks reported and showed on video, a totally peaceful event. And then they escorted them out in police vans. So issuing that type of stern denial based on a technicality, to me, reeks of desperation of a man who knows that he has lost the moral authority. Now, imagine being at that press conference. Imagine being at that press conference as a member of the mainstream media and thinking, rather than question the police's actions, which are so clearly diabolical, what I'm going to do is encourage the police to take action to crack down on freedom of speech, to crack down on the freedom of speech of members of the public, citizen journalists, and even politicians. This is how insane our mainstream media is. This is how fearful they are that they are now completely losing the narrative. But that is exactly what an LBC journalist did today. I was shocked, I was horrified, but here's the proof.
Behind from LBC,
Hi,
I think.
Shana, LBC Radio. Beyond asking people to think twice about spreading misinformation, are you actually going to do anything to clamp down on political leaders or members of the public who are stoking tensions, some of them even inciting violence online?
Well, it's not the police's job to clamp down on elected politicians. You know, freedom of speech is important to a protester. It is to government and to any person who wants to have a view. All I'm asking is that people are responsible about what they say and they consider the real world consequences. Where people commit crime online, then we will apply the laws and look at those in the way that approaches that's appropriate to that. Where people have views that I or others may disagree with, I am just an appeal that people be responsible and consider what they say. If what they say now has an impact that means someone gets hurt on Thursday or on Saturday, then I would just ask, consider that, because those are the people that are at the centre of what we're concerned about, the people of Epping, whoever they are, whichever community they come from, and the officers that are having to police that operation, because that's what my concern is. That's the concern of the policing operation, doing that in accordance with the law.
To my superstar panel now, Father Calvin Robinson and Chris Davies. Chris, that was astonishing that LBC could sit there and talk about disinformation when the only disinformation was coming from the police when it came to this instance. The disinformation wasn't coming from the citizen journalists, wasn't coming from people like me, wasn't coming from Nigel Farage. Yet immediately, LBC trying to almost collaborate with the press for some type of crackdown on free speech. It's like, have they lost their minds? I am so angry.
You'd be right to be angry, Dan. The words that should be used are gaslighting and doublespeak, not disinformation or misinformation. You mentioned earlier on about the involvement of the deep state. It's not even that deep anymore. It's actually surface level. You've got the police, you've got the mainstream media, and you've got idiots like Absana Begum, who you mentioned why aren't local MPs getting involved in these things? Because she's too busy worrying about Gaza and Palestine action. And this guy who's on screen now is a buffoon. But he's a dangerous buffoon. He has clearly gone through the brainwashing of, here's my narrative, and no matter what the facts say, I'm sticking to it. You're quite right about the buses. It's been widely covered. It's been all over the internet for the last 6 days. And belatedly, good on them, the Daily Telegraph have finally picked up the story. But once again, if it falls outside of the approved narrative, Dan, it does not fly in this country, apart from on channels like this.
I know, Father Calvin, I just find it totally nuts that it almost doesn't matter what the story is now. It doesn't matter where the contempt or disgust of the British public is coming from because of what these people in power are doing to us. And every single time, the mainstream media encourage censorship. And I presume, Father Calvin, they're doing it to save their own behinds because they know that they are losing control, that they know they are losing viewers. They know they can no longer control the narrative in the way that they used to. But I just find it truly appalling and disgusting.
They're all bought into the narrative, aren't they, unfortunately? That LBC journalist who asked the question, "Are you not going to clamp down on them?" It's like, please stop them from having a different opinion to us. And the chief of police, when he was speaking, he was almost implying that the patriots are the ones causing the trouble, even though we all know that they shipped in this busload of counter protesters, and having them there is what sparked the trouble. It's troubling to me that, I've been to protests, plenty of protests. I can remember a few occasions where I've been on the wrong side of a mob of angry. It's the same exact people actually, stand up to racism, whatever, with their paid placards, the Soros Brigade, and the group that I'm joining are on the other side of them, and I've arrived on the wrong side. And I'm like, okay, this could be quite dangerous, right? These people literally hate me. They're spitting, they're shouting obscenities, and the police are there. Did the police get me in the back of their van and escort me round to the other side of the... Of
course they don't.
They don't care. They don't give a damn. And they never will, because from their perspective, we are the bad guys, the patriots are the bad guys, and the counter-protesters, the Soros Brigade, the people who are shipped in, who are paid to cause trouble, are the good guys because they're pro-immigration, pro-diversity, and pro all the right things. It is two-tier policing because they're all hook, line, and sinker bought into the common diversity, inclusion, and equity agenda, unfortunately. And that's the same for the LBC journalist.
Oh, big time. Big time. Rupert Lowe has now written, though, to the Home Secretary demanding answers following what he describes as disgraceful events in Epping, particularly surrounding pro-migrant protesters who the police seem to actively escort and promote. Here's the letter. Dear Home Secretary, I'm writing to express deep concern regarding recent police protests. Footage now widely circulated confirms that Essex Police escorted pro-migration counter-protesters to the Bell Hotel. This action appears to have deliberately inflamed tensions, leading to clashes, injuries, and the damage of police property. You will be acutely aware that almost all of those attending the protests were local residents, concerned parents and grandparents, peacefully objecting to the continued housing of adult male asylum seekers from cultures that share none of our values. The police have a duty to be impartial. You have a duty to be impartial in your role. Yet increasingly, we see a two-tier approach to policing where groups that align with fashionable causes are protected, while those voicing legitimate patriotic concerns are demonized or provoked. It is simply unacceptable. I therefore demand answers to the following questions. Who authorized the decision to escort counter-protesters to the Bell Hotel in Epping? What operational guidelines are currently in place for managing opposing demonstrations near migrant accommodation? Will you commit to deporting every single illegal migrant in the country and closing these awful hotels down for good? And that's really the key question, isn't it, Chris? Because they can talk all they want, but until these hotels are gone, then I think this civil disobedience, hopefully peaceful, is going to continue.
You're right, Dan. Talk is cheap. It's actions that count. And the only way forward now, we are at that point, as I said to you earlier on, we're already over the edge. It's a question of trying to put the scaffolding up as we're falling out of the sky. It's mass deportations. It's remigrations of the unassimilated. And it's about time that certain members of our political class got off their backsides and went down to Epping, went to Diss, went to Canary Wharf. You flashed up a picture there of Nick Tenkoni from UKIP, who, as far as I'm aware, is the only political leader who has bothered himself to get on the front line and to understand the concerns, the genuinely held concerns of those who are protesting, despite being labelled far right, despite being labelled as fascists and racists, when it generally is husbands and wives, fathers of children. Children, Dan. This is what we're talking about here. And it's disgusting that Stand Up to Racism and Hope Not Hate and Antifa and all of these verminous organisations dare to counter-protest against people who have legitimate concerns about child sexual abuse. I mean, this is the most base of arguments.
I know, but the thing is, this mob cannot be trusted, Father Calvin, because what they're doing is, so even tonight, right, they are so organised, Father Calvin, they are so funded by the likes of Soros, as you point out, because look, even tonight, Stand Up to Racism has now launched an emergency mobilization to the Britannia Hotel in Canary Wharf. They are going to continue this. They are planning another counter-protest over the weekend at the Bell Hotel, which prompted Narinder Kaur to post, "It's a shame that as a brown woman, for fear of my own safety from racist thugs, that I'm unable to attend this protest. After being targeted at one last year and the police having to get involved, I'm now too scared to attend. This is the state of the country once again." And I would argue, no, it is the hard left that is causing this with these counter demonstrations, Kelvin.
I thought Narinder Kaur said that she didn't like the UK anymore. She was going to go live in India. I was waiting to see her pack her bags and off. That would be much more pleasant if these people that hate our country, the people that hate the patriots, the people that hate people defending childhood innocence, just left. Go. We don't want you in our country is the message. And it's quite clear that posters that she put up there, no to fascist Tommy Robinson. If only he was a fascist, if only we had a fascist party leader standing, then at least these people would know what true fascism is, because all we're asking for, as decent centrists, is to protect the lives of the vulnerable, to protect innocent children, to vet people who come into our country, to let people ask permission before they come in and invade our small towns. It's quite, decent, all that people are asking for. None of it is fascist, none of it is far right, and these far left loons need to get a hold of themselves or leave, go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to subscribe to this brand new independent news source and turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews, and special royal episodes. Outspoken is also now available as a podcast, so you can listen to the show every weekday on the go, wherever you are.